welcome back to the Nutrimedical Report. And, of course, open lines in every hour except the first hour Friday with our firing line wellness questions, 800-259-5791. And, of course, we had a slight change in our Listen Live line number. If you check out NutriMedical.com, you'll see that. You can listen by podcast. You can listen by phone. And the phone number to listen to the program has changed slightly. It is still, let's see, looking at the numbers here, 605-562-4096. Welcome back to the program, Ryan.
Thanks, hopefully the connection's okay. I'm not in a great spot.
Yeah, I can still hear you. You're clear enough. And you speak, let's say, you enunciate your words well, so we should be able to hear you. And you're very popular with our audience, so I want to start off by talking about our new name, which we're going to launch for Allergon, which is called histamine cytokinase. Cytokinase means it gets rid of cytokines, and it's different than allergies. It helps allergies, but it also helps autoimmune diseases, inflammatory conditions, and we call where there's upregulation of cytokines in your brain, your liver, your solid organs. It can induce cancer. It can induce inflammatory changes in vascular problems. It can induce autoimmune conditions. It's really important to understand that histamine is linked to things like interleukin-1 beta, TNF-alpha, IFN gamma, etc. And when you get rid of histamine, it's not just a histamine blocker. This is a histaminase enzyme, first in the world, and that's why we're renaming it from Allergon to distinguish from Allerblock, which basically is a natural antihistamine. Let's talk about this for a minute, because I think people should understand. Yeah. That's why when we launch products like, say, our Sports Energy Light, this is not like our 5-hour energy drink. This gives you smoother and better energy, better electrolyte replacements, much more powerful, and mitochondrial and energy support. And it's so powerful it has to be in a nitrogen sachet, which you open up because it's sealed under nitrogen so it can't oxidize. You put it in your glass, and I usually have a glass like at the top of the hour here. I didn't get a chance right now, but I will probably in the next break make up some Sports Energy Light drink. And I guess we need to reconnect with Ryan, because I think we heard a beep beep that we lost him. I want to start off with some of the other quick announcements. We announced our carrot bars launch today. We have a 10% off code for NutriMed if you're getting a pure water system. We have our MG12 Amazing Healing Detox Magnesium Topical Dead Sea Minerals. We have, of course, Dr. Bob Dennis and NASA Pulse Scalar Stem Cell Healing and Pain Control System with a $30 saving code of Dr. Deagle under MicroPulse. We have the Vibra Slim, our special now. It's down $400 from previous. And, of course, we have Less EMF. You get special savings over there to go to Less EMF or Electrosmog. We have the Summit to Sea systems with the new line. They're much more affordable, and they have financing. We have PrepareWise Foods, Lumen Photon, Far and Near Infrared Light Spectra Therapy, Jurisdictionary, of course, the Professor McCanney's website, and DVDs and books, etc., and Ann Morrison's subscription, Twyland. We have, of course, Joel Skousen's World Affairs Brief newsletter, Turtle Tough Shelters, the Ready Store Amazing Foods and Emergency Medical Equipment, and, of course, Jonathan Gray's ebooks, Clay and Iron, which is my website here, clayandiron.com, for above government technology, news, and spiritual issues. And, of course, Dave and Jean Mitchell, super realtor brokers that can help you here in California or around the world to set up get out of the big cities, get into a secure place where you can build a community of like-minded Christian believers. So, welcome back to the program, Ryan.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Dr. Bill. Hopefully,
that's okay. You're in an area where you're not getting great connections, as they say.
I'm on the edge. I'm on the edge of a plate, I guess.
Yeah, right. A tectonic plate, maybe. Let's hope not. You're a funny guy.
Before you jumped out, you were asking about the histamine cytokine formulation, and that is a very unique thing because it is the enzyme that is a regulator of histamine in our bodies, and so we can get histamine overload. Either our bodies can do it on its own, or we can eat foods that drive that histamine pathway, and all of a sudden we get just the most bizarre levels of reaction that a lot of people don't necessarily associate with histamine. They're usually just thinking about sort of the seasonal allergies and the runny nose and so forth. But it's far beyond that, really. It has to do from skin to heart issues and arrhythmias to things like vertigo or hyperexcitatory disorders or hormone imbalance or digestive difficulties. And it's so extensive and insidious that people really don't know. This is about as fundamental as people taking digestive enzymes. A lot of challenged individuals.
Example, start going from head down: histamine, ADD, ADHD, hyperactivity, depression. Going further down, esophageal spasm, reflux esophagitis. Going further down, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome from histamine release. Inflammation in the liver, elevated enzymes. Elevated stress hormone responses, which can predispose to insulin resistance and diabetes and adrenal stress. I mean, it goes on and on. People don't realize histamine is what's called a fulcrum cytokine, which means it triggers off IL-1 beta and other cytokines. So when you get rid of histamine, you're not just blocking it in some receptors, you're removing it. You're actually getting rid of it, which is important. It's present in foods, and it's manufactured by the body. The body's immune cells will release histamine. So there's two sources, food and your own body. And if you don't get rid of histamine, it crashes on your brain, on your solid organs. It does lots of bad stuff. Interesting, hey?
Yeah, and that's why, changing the name, like you're saying, just to get a better perspective that this is much, it should be differentiated from people thinking about just herbs that, you kind of think about as stabilizing histamine for, seasonal allergies. This is so much deeper of an issue, and this is such a unique way to go ahead and battle that issue in the body that there's nothing like it in the marketplace. And even people that are just, they may just have, kind of odd sensitivities. It could be like they drink a glass of wine, they get ash or, aged foods, cheeses, things like that. And I don't even understand, why do I react that way? This is a very interesting formula for people to try out because, popping a couple capsules and then, saying consuming a glass of red wine or having that aged cheese, and all of a sudden things totally just are normal. That's showing you that, you are in dramatic need of this enzyme that helps break down histamine in your body.
Right. I want to run through some of the latest consults because I find they're instructive. We have people that are concerned about nanoparticle aluminum because the geoengineering of the upper atmosphere has 4 primary nanoparticles: aluminum, thorium, barium, and strontium. And a nanoparticle barium is 10,000 times more toxic to the central nervous system than lead, so it's nasty. Aluminum will actually calcify the pineal gland and the basal nuclei of the brain, and they cause what's called middle ion syndrome, which you see in renal people that are on renal dialysis because it can't pull these larger heavy metal ions out of the body. So you accumulate them in particular areas of the base of the brain. And you can see it on a CT scan. You can actually see the little flecks of aluminum actually starting to accumulate little crystals in the base of the brain in these basal nuclei. So the first thing we recommend is Keeler Max and their ultra-liquid zeolite. We also tell people methylation is a very important pathway, so samethyl, bio-LVR, superfolate, and pyromethyl B12 all support methylation, especially samethyl. So let's talk about Keeler Max and samethyl to start with, because when you're trying to get out of heavy metals out of your body, we have, again, our core Keeler Max and ultra-liquid zeolite, but methylation is king. If you're trying to get a lot of things out of the body, there's 3 main pathways: methylation, sulfation, glucuronidation. And methylation is king for getting metals out of the body, including nanoparticles. So when we come back, we'll talk to Ryan about Keeler Max and samethyl, etc. And we have other answers to other interesting problems like shift work and psoriasis. In just a moment, your question is 800-259-5791. Keeler Max and samethyl, pyromethyl B12, superfolate, and bio-LVR. I'd start off with bio-LVR first, then samethyl, pyromethyl B12, and superfolate. If you don't maintain proper methylation, you can't myelinate nerve fibers in your brain or periphery. You can't detoxify heavy metals. You can't detoxify most chemicals. You can't maintain proper stomach acid digestive enzymes without methylation. It's pretty darn important, and you can't maintain what's called tetrahydrobiopterin in your artery walls to maintain nitric oxide concentrations that will not only allow you to be resistant to high-altitude pulmonary or cerebral edema, but also maintain and not get pulmonary hypertension from if you're on CPAP or a Premi, for example, to give them nitric oxide. And I tell people, give them a high nitrate diet, like beet juice during the day, take our Supernox, but you got to have proper methylation, and that's where samethyl comes in bio-LVR, superfolate, and power methyl B12. So if you're trying to get heavy metals out, like nanoparticle aluminum, you need these supplements, or you can't do it. So anybody says, well, I took a little samethyl and a little bit of, chlorella, I mean, you're crazy. And you can't even determine your body burden unless you do a DMPS IV challenge or a heavy challenge of oral chelation like our Keeler Max for a period of up to 2 weeks before you even start to dump it. And to speed dumping, you need an infrared sauna and pulse magnetic field to your whole body in order for you to dump it up at a highly sequestered compartment. So when I hear these people that are called pseudo-experts on toxicology, they don't know squat. It's ridiculous. They don't know squat. And they're putting themselves and the people that they advise in danger because they don't know anything. Interesting. Hey, Ryan?
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. In other words, it's like Einstein said, genius is quantifiable, stupidity is limitless.
Right.
Unfortunately. Yeah, that's why I tell people sometimes people are afraid to call and said, there's no such thing as a bad question. I'm not going to beat you up for a question that seems stupid. I ask stupid questions of myself. And I don't have any intellectual attachment to my previous levels of stupidity. So I have somebody with grade 3 that asks a good question or makes a good point. I want to learn. I don't want to maintain my level of stupidity I had last week, last month, last year. I want to move forward, which I've lost even the last weekend, reviewing all the literature on PubMed. I was going crazy. My wife saying, stop doing that. It's 11 o'clock at night. I'm going through PubMed and my PubMed app on my iPad, and I'm firing off emails to myself, all these PubMed articles. If you don't read and study and you don't analyze things as a doctor, all an MD does, or an ND or a chiropractic degree or whatever, is give you a license to start learning your specialty, period. It doesn't mean all of a sudden you're now the purveyor of all knowledge. It means you're starting to learn. Just like I feel every day, like, Leonardo da Vinci, I'm just starting to learn all this stuff. I don't think I've mastered it all, but my knowledge is thousands of times ahead of pretty well anybody I talk to. It's just desperately ignorant out there. So, Ryan, let's go over Keeler Max and samethyl. These are important nutraceuticals, aren't they?
Well, sure. I mean, when you talk about the chelation of heavy metals, it's a great thing to keep in mind because it builds up over time. There's a great way to Keeler Max, broad spectrum formulation designed to help bring some of our common exposed heavy metals that we to just for those levels to keep inflammation and so from being triggered and creating kind of that domino effect, if you will, on our body that break us down. Using something like Keeler Max is a great way to do, quote unquote, a detox program, but have that focus not just say on the liver like you might with ageless or life support, but focusing on that deeper, more specific issue with regards to these heavy metals is a pretty remarkable thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you bring in metal, I think it takes a little bit of appreciation on the deeper level of what is methylation. And the best thing I can say is, everybody's car runs on 4, 6, or 8 cylinders, but oftentimes you got to take it in and get it tuned up because it's not firing on all cylinders properly, so you're not getting the best gas mileage and the best effect from your car, and it's not running exactly the way it should. And so when you think about something like samethyl and methylation, that's what we're talking about, is ideally making all the cylinders fire ideally at the right time, the right manner, so the cells, all of them, are working the way they should. And formulation like methyl is a way to deliver the methylation component to ensure this is happening.
Yeah, and methylation is also necessary for your proper operation of your mitochondria.
Yes. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. People, I'll give you an example. I like to use what I call thought experiments, just like Einstein or whatever. And let's say I could invent a test or technology that would say, okay, Mrs. Such and Such, I'm going to put this clip on your finger or your arm or whatever, and I'm going to measure what percentage of your mitochondria are operating at 90%, 70%, 60% option, right? And we'll just reconnect with Ryan there. I guess there's connection dropped again. And we want to know what your free radical load is. So I want to know, number one, what percentage of your mitochondria are operating like what we call young, healthy, vigorous mitochondria, producing lots of ATP and NADH, and which percentage of your mitochondria are really kind of wanky, and we better get them out of the cell because they're generating tons of free radicals that are starting to cross-link proteins and DNA and screwing things up. And if your system is working properly, you're taking Nutridyne, mitothyroid, you're taking supplements to like Mountain Red Velvet, microdose growth hormone, Super Nox, it's others, everything to try to get your growth hormone levels up. You're getting rid of old mitochondria, you're revving up the new mitochondria, and you're improving all the pathways. That's why we talk about things like Nutridyne, mitochondrial catalysts, Vascu Care, which is propionyl carnitine, IBS Care, which is a slow-release carnitine, CoQ10 ubiquinol, which is the most absorbed form, CoQ10 Supreme, which is the rapid BAM, works right away formula, and other nutraceuticals like uridine, their triacyl uridine, increases mitochondrial function. So when we're looking at things like detox, we're looking at different aspects of it. So I recommend right off the bat Keeler Max and Ultra Zeolite. 2 to 3 capsules of Keeler Max twice a day, Ultra Liquid Zeolite, 13 drops in water, and 3 times a day. I recommend Semethyl, a sachet, at least once in the morning, perhaps one twice a day, Superfolate twice a day, and a Powermethyl B12 under the tongue twice a day, if you're trying to pull out heavy metals. I don't recommend bentonite clay. I think it can cause bowel obstruction and other problems. I think it's also can't transit beyond the bowel wall. And you want to be able to go through all the circulatory compartments. And if you're trying to mobilize it, we have, if you contact me, I will get you a real good price on an infrared sauna. I personally like the pulsed lumen photon therapy over your target organs and the micro pulse device. And of course, if you're mobilizing toxins and heavy metals, you want to increase so-called hyperoxygenation with ozone. We have new ozone generators now available. They'll be selling on a sale price coming up this week. We'll have them in. And we have a real good supply now of top quality, better functionality than the Go Healthy Next ones. If you're concerned, we do have those. We also have air filter systems that use plasma ozone, and they're a multi-stage filter system. They're excellent. Those are also going to be available this week. So if you're looking for an air filtration system, I've searched around, found the best technology, best prices, and we have those now. So back in a moment, hopefully we'll have Ryan, and we'll talk about some of the other latest nutraceutical consults. We had an interesting one here on dealing with shift work, and an interesting gentleman by the name of David, and I gave him a shift work protocol and to try to keep himself going, and we'll be back in a moment. And, I get all kinds of people ask me great questions. I really appreciate it. And of course, you can call into the show and ask any question. Don't be afraid. 800-259-5791, geopolitical, spiritual, health, any topic. I will provide you either an answer immediately or a framework to work toward an answer on the spot, instantly, on any topic on Earth. And I want to open that up because I want people to start thinking, to learning how to think about thinking. I call it thought-smith rather than just wordsmith. When we get this request the other day, which is the gentleman wanted to know how to keep his brain working properly and counteract stress, so he's working shift work at odd hours in the middle of the night. So the first thing I recommend is you get a glass of water, filtered water like pure water system water. You can use something like the carbonated water, those carbonated companies that make no sugar water that basically has flavors in them. Then I recommend a Sports Energy Light. You open one sachet, these are pretty big sachets, and put that in your glass or your thermos. I put it in a thermos. It's about 22 ounces usually of water, so it's a lot. And then I put in half a teaspoon of D-ribose powder, a half a teaspoon of ALC-1000, and a teaspoon of Brain Mag. And I may also crush 2 tablets of NADH, because nicotinic dinucleotide hydride maintains your electron density in your mitochondrial cytochromes. D-ribose converts directly to ATP, and ALC-1000, acetylcarnitine, maintains energy production by converting fatty acids to electron transport in your mitochondria. I recommend taking 2 Cognition Plus at the beginning of the shift and 2 in the middle of the shift. CoQ10 ubiquinol, not just the CoQ10 regular, but the CoQ10 ubiquinol, 2 soft gels twice a day, because it turns out the water-soluble ubiquinol form is the best one for brain. The best one for what we call the long-acting slow reserve release system for brain function, and Vascu Care, which is propionyl L-carnitine. So we want to maintain energy. You can also add for that, it's called Norival, Norival, which is acetyltyrosine And acetyltyrosine means it's going to increase levels of dopamine and norepinephrine. So that's the protocol. If you take that, you're going to be zipping through the night. Now, don't take your Sports Energy Light and these other things at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, not unless you're planning on finishing writing a book, running a half marathon, or doing something else. You're going to be like the Energizer Bunny, and you'll have footprints above the switch plates in your room. So don't do that. So that gives you that shift work brain support protocol. There'll be all kinds of interesting questions here. Had a question from a lady by the name of Leslie, and she asked about plaque psoriasis. And, of course, we tell her plaque psoriasis is the dermacentor mite, which carries hundreds of little different kinds of bugs itself in its mouth. Dermacentor mites are weird little creatures. They can trigger off, because of the pathogens they carry in their mouth parts, a prickle cell layer, which is the interleukin 27, and you get a thing called a Koebner's phenomena, where if you traumatize the skin in that area, you get what's called a scaling plaque psoriasis. So any areas that gets traumatized, you end up with a plaque psoriasis release, because it releases local cytokines. So the first thing you want to do is block the cytokines. Is you want to take, we talked about earlier, the name we call Allergon. It'll be called histamine cytokinase. At least 1 to 2 capsules 3 times a day. You want to take Cell Defense, 2 caplets 3 times a day, which is a curcumin with bioperin. Inflamax, 4 capsules 3 times a day. And then bump up to stop the release of cytokines, Power C Plus, 6 capsules 3 times a day. And full vitamin K2, 2 capsules. That is 1 capsule per 3 Power C Plus, 3 times a day. Ellagic acid to stabilize and repair the DNA. Allicin Med to kill off the pathogens. Of course, along with the high-dose Nutriodine, which you want to be taking at least 15 to 20 drops in water 3 times a day. I have my glass of carbonated water with probably 30 drops of Nutriodine right sitting on my desk right now, so I'll sip on that in the next 5 minutes. Nutrifos and Neurogen to regenerate the skin because it's damaged, it's been injured. And that'll be 4 soft gels of Nutrifos or phospholipids, phosphatidylcholine, serine, and inositol, and Neurogen, which is docosahexaenoic acid. And then Omega Supreme Krill, the krill oil astaxanthin. We have the only astaxanthin. You want to get rid of the free radicals, so cell detox glutathione, which are released by the cytokines in the skin. Selenium cruciferate, extremely important for glutathione peroxidase and support to stop singlet oxygen. And for the regeneration of your skin, you need copper, along with taking the Minerals Plus copper zinc ratio. So you want copper Regenemax, which is a copper subacate, along with Minerals Plus, Collagen Max twice a day, and Mountain Red Velvet. So we're getting rid of the pathogens, we're turning off the cytokines, and we're giving you the building blocks to rebuild skin. And then I recommend lumen photon therapy over the lesion areas on the NICO setting. You can also use micropulse. MG12 baths, that will include the Healing Body Balm, which is arnica montana, essential oils, and all the magnesium oil and minerals from the Dead Sea. MG12 baths with oil or bath salts. Magnus Sport, which is really fantastic. I use Magnus Sport spray after my shower. And the Magnus soap. So those are what I recommend will take care of your plaque psoriasis. And none of them, of course, involves any of these very dangerous and powerful disease-modifying drugs that they now push now for plaque psoriasis. And whenever they give these drugs, usually what it means is parts of your immune system are going to be suppressed, and it actually puts you at risk of cancer and other conditions. So, when you take these disease-modifying drugs, I've personally seen cases of people that picked up parasites or pests from their pets that normally won't grow on human flesh, but it will grow when you take one of these disease-modifying drugs, which is weird. It also can cause weird things like unusual cancers like hairy cell leukemia and other weird cancers. So please realize your doctors are knuckleheads. Your doctors are pharmaceutical salesmen, and they have very little pharmacology, toxicology, intermediate metabolism, or infectious disease training. They don't understand exactly what they're doing at all. And they're basically giving you a drug like an experiment, like Xarelto, which is supposedly, if you ask the doctors which factors is involving factor 5A, etc., and their intrinsic clotting pathways, they look at you like, from space, or is this a test? Am I going to pass it? No, you're not going to pass the test. And the problem is when the doctors give this and they don't know the genetics of the individual, they can actually put you in dire straits. We get a lot of calls over a couple topics. Hypothyroidism and cancer are some of the most common, and I want to go over thyroid again for people just so they understand the basics. Mitothyroid, 2 capsules in the morning and 2 before supper meal. Nutridyne, 10 drops in water to 15 drops twice a day. Minerals plus a capsule twice a day because you need 7 minerals to deiodote the outer 5' ring of T4 to make T3, which is the actual hormone. T4 is 1/4000th as avidly attached to the crystal galli of the mitochondria as T3, and it's blocked by reverse T3. So in diabetics and pre-diabetics and people with metabolic syndrome, it's called Syndrome X, they actually make RT3 that blocks their thyroid metabolism and lowers core body temperature. And in particularly, if you have high T3 levels and lower metabolism in your adipocytes or fat cells, they act like a term deposit, and the fat or money doesn't come out of deposits, so you get fatter, especially around the middle. So if you do a thermogram, you'll see the fatty middle tissues or fat air deposits under the skin, etc., and the deep organs basically are metabolically inert. They're just storing calories but not burning it. And you can raise that with a number of things like forskolin, coleus forskolii, lipoflush, dibetaline, and biotin plus, leptin metabolic, and things that raise metabolic rate, of course, like high-dose Nutridyne and mitothyroid, because most people have got TRS, or thyroid resistance syndrome. They've got elevated reverse thyroid hormone, and you have to lower their leptin and insulin resistance, and that's really important. So the other thing that's necessary besides that is your selenium cruciferate. Selenium is very important for the 5' deiodinase, and it's woefully low in most people that are hypothyroid or have what we call TRS, where they may not have thyroid antibodies, but their ability to convert because they get elevated insulin resistance. Their selenium levels are in their boots. You monitor by measuring free levels of T4, T3, and reverse T3. And if your doctor doesn't know what T3 is, reverse T3, fire him and get a doctor that's a functional medicine doctor knows. And get an AM core temperature with the gerotherm alcohol or sensitive electronic thermometer. Keep it sharp. That's hypothyroidism in a nutshell. Back in a moment. Your question's 800-259. Brave, Eric. That's good. You don't need to be brave. Just call it. I'm a sheepdog for God, but I don't bite the sheep. I bite the wolves, not the sheep. So, Eric, you called because you're a Nutrimedical devotee, which means you're going to get smarter. And you probably have, if you're listening to the program for a period of months or years, you'll be considerably smarter than any of your health professionals, chiropractors, medical doctors, nutritionists, or surgeons. And in fact, I tell people I consult with doctors and specialists of every specialty, from surgeons to chiros to naturopaths to nutritionists all over the world, whether they're in China or whatever. And I'll make them a better doctor in an hour, half an hour, 10 minutes, by just saying, what do you do? Like, let's say you're a plastic surgeon, you want a better surgical result. Well, without saying your full name, just tell us 2 or 3 things that you're concerned about, because you want to get a pulse magnetic field machine. You get NutriMeds already. Do you have any sore joints? Do you have anything else that's a concern that you're, like, controlling pain? Anything? What are the primary concerns?
Well, generally I'm pretty healthy. I've been pretty fortunate. I am a natural bodybuilder, and I purchased the Mega Muscles, and I'm already having great experience with those BCAAs.
Yeah, they're really good. They're the top amino acids in the world for building muscle. Now, here's the other things in conjunction with that. Supernox, 2 caplets 3 times a day to 3 caplets 3 times a day if you're a big boy. I take 3 times a day at least. Number 2, microdose, which is actual growth hormone. It's 100 nanograms per spray. It's not just a simulation or a releaser. It's actual human growth hormone. And so it's going to release your growth hormone. And number 3, you want to take, to increase nitric oxide production, which is important, nitrates, which mean get some beet juice powder. You can get it at Amazon or whatever. Get beet juice powder. Make sure you take a couple glasses a day, because you need the nitrates in order for your body to make nitric oxide to release growth hormone, etc. Now, you can actually increase growth hormone release with VibraSlim, vibrational exercise. It's a very powerful releaser of growth hormone. And the other thing is, whenever you're building muscle or tissue, whatever, you want the rebar, which is Collagen Max. If you've got torn tendons, you want Tendon Mender to make the tenocytes stronger and lay down and not be inflammatory. And a joint performance to rebuild cartilage, because if you're doing heavy muscle building, you're going to get micro injuries and micro tears. And if your body heals them rapidly that day, you won't get a micro injury becoming a macro injury. Now, you wanted to know about magnetic fields. We have a special on the MicroPulse now, which is $1,000 less, and you with the code Dr. Deagle, Dr. Deagle, on Nutrimedical, you save $30 more, so you get it under $400 and free shipping. And I often will tell people that code doesn't matter how many times you buy it. So a lot of people are buying 2 of the machines, one for themselves, one to loan to their mom or their brother or whatever. So they keep one machine. Give you an example. You're a power lifter, and you strain an area of your shoulder, slap it around the shoulder, put it on with a little Velcro strap, which they show you some links off the MicroPulse website, and just get lithium-ion rechargeable batteries. I have lithium-ion batteries. I haven't bought a new battery in years. So I just slap the machine. I used to have a SomaPulse. I have the MicroPulse now. It's amazing. If you get a headache, slap it on there. If you want to help your eyes, if let's say you've got diabetic retinopathy and or intraocular pressure because you got glaucoma, let's say you got NICA, which is cavitations and you got some infection around the bone, take our Alcimed, Nutridyne, and Silver 100, take our NutriDefense to boost your immune system, and then slap on Lumen Photon and the MicroPulse. And the MicroPulse is neat because you can have a sore knee and in 10 or 15 minutes, it's gone. You just turn it up to maximum power, boom. Leave it on the knee and you say, I can't believe it. I'm moving around and my quadriceps isn't bothering anymore, my buttock or my SI joint. It is amazing. It restores circulation, stimulates the stem cells, and stimulates the new structural proteins and enzymes. And it does it by entraining, and it's like a bird call. If you're out there with a bird call whistle, the other birds in the forest around, you're going to start whistling back. Well, that's what the tissue does. It entrains. In other words, it pulses at the same magical frequencies called Schumann polar resonance frequencies. They discovered when the orbiting was going over what's called polar orbit, and those particular frequencies out of the poles of the Earth stimulated the stem cells in culture at NASA up to 400%. Pretty amazing, hey?
Yes, sir. Didn't the first cosmonaut that did the first spacewalk, didn't he lose some 80% of his bone mass?
Yeah, and it's also not just losing it, it's dangerous because hypercalcemia can cause cardiac arrest, can cause osteoporotic fractures. When you come back to Earth, if your bones are decalcified tremendously, but the hypercalcemia can cause cardiac arrhythmias and death. So I tell people, the Russians discovered, they're very good scientists and physicists. The best physicists on Earth are Russian. People need to know that. I respect the Russian physicists. They're very good at theoretical physics right now. And we have some good physicists here, but the best in the world are Russian. They're both nonlinear physics like Dr. Nestorov and the Bioplasm Pro and the Bioplasm Professional, which we have also now, came from his research. What happens is that every organ in your body basically vibrates the molecules of the infrared light spectra, and those frequencies are translated by the cell membranes. I call it MEM-brain, or BRAIN. They're like a liquid crystal nonlinear microprocessor. So when you're using pulse magnetic field, you're basically increasing what's called a signal-to-noise ratio, so more signals getting through the DNA to say, make more messenger RNA, make these proteins, make these enzymes, absorb these minerals, and then start amplifying the cellular healing and regeneration and pain control. Because once you fix the problem, the pain goes away. So if you've got, let's say, a torn apophyseal joint in your lumbar spine, or you've got a quadricep muscle that's tight, or an IT band that's been aggravated, now it's inflamed enough it's going to start adhesing to the tissues. I tell people use our healing body balm and a deep tendon, deep tissue massage. But if you start slapping on, the magnesium oils, and then you put on, take your oral magnesium glycinate, magnesium taurate to decrease the stress on the tissue. You take our enzymes to break up adhesions like Inflamex and seroflozyme, silkworm enzyme, and then you slap on the MicroPulse. You're going to tremendous, more rapid healing and a greater extent of healing. So I'm incredibly pleased. I mean, if I got a shoulder, I've been doing, because what I like to do is I call Vibra Fit. So I'll take free weights on my vibrational platform, and I've got really high tension power lines that I actually could through a athletic bar above me, behind, bolted into the ceiling, and then on the ground. And I can use the resistance with those resistance bands at lower weights, and the gravity effect is 3.6 times, so it's more safe than heavy free weights, but it multiplies it, so 60 pounds of weights, which I can work with when I usually work in, is equivalent to 200 pounds of weights when I'm doing all kinds of maneuvers with less chance of injury. So if I injure a shoulder, like I went to my massage therapist this week, and I got an area that's tweaking, I can slap the MicroPulse on that area, and within a matter of 15, 20 minutes, that pain's gone. It's not like a 7 or a 6, it's 0 or a 1. So that's how amazing it is, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So that's how you do it, and you become your own therapist. You start to also become more in touch with your body, because once you start kind of identifying problems, you say, hey, all I have to do is increase the rate of healing of the tissue. And this is the thing that separates young athletes from older ones. Older ones have more experience, more training, and more knowledge, but their tissues don't heal fast enough, so those micro injuries become macro injuries, and they tear shoulders, ACLs, they get adhesions of muscle planes, they get, piriformis adhesions that cause, sciatica syndrome, etc. In other words, if your rate of healing exceeds the rate of micro injury, you can stay functional in any sport and get a higher level of function, whether it's powerlifting like you're doing at home, and not get injured. When I see the videos of people that are doing like CrossFit, this is like, you got to have your wires crossed to do this.
That's nuts. Crazy.
It's crazy stuff. You're taking kettlebells, and I got tons of them in our fitness room. We got right up to 100-pound kettlebells. And I'll exercise with the kettlebells. But throwing a kettlebell over your head is not a smart thing to do. If you want to build up your muscle strength. So
prone to injury doing those Olympic lifts, to exhaustion. Just, I don't get it. I like Doug McGuff's super slow training regimen. I've been considering the VibraSlim while doing it with that.
Yeah, well, actually, the best way to train yourself is what's called burst of maximum effort, so you have to rest. Maximum effort and rest. And we're not talking about maximum effort in terms of, super heavy weights where you injure yourself. If you do it on a vibrational platform, you get maximum effort with heart rate and everything, but you'll have, because you're using lower weights, you multiply it on the average vibrational platform by a G-force or gravity force of 3.6. So if you use a 50-pound weight, multiply that by 3.6, is the actual physiological effect in your body, recruiting muscle fibers, etc. So, again, I call it VibraFit. Get a vibrational platform, free weights, like the Bowflex free weights, and the Body Elastic bands are my favorite. And it's compact. You can have it in an apartment or a small home. You're not going to get injured. You're going to build up strength and full range of motion and power control, like around tensor joints like your shoulder, where there's the force vectors in all the directions maintained, so you don't jam your rotator cuff up and tear it. And don't blow discs in your neck or back if you're doing excessively heavy weights with explosive force, which is what happens to a lot of these guys that do CrossFit. They blow discs because their connective tissues haven't built up tensile strength. Hope that advice helps, Eric. If you need more, call or email or listen in anytime. We're back in hour number 3 with